Good vibes in Wrigleyville as the Cubs tried to complete a perfect week here at the ballpark. It's a Hyundai leadoff man on WGN Sports. The Cubs go for the sweep over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hope your weekend's going well. Along with Jim DeShays, I'm Len Casper. Well, 6-0 on the homestand. You might as well finish it 7-0.
Yeah, first 6-game winning streak since 2011. We've seen a lot of strange things this week. We've seen some very good starting pitching, some clutch hitting, and some outstanding defense.
Yeah, let's go day by day. Back to Monday. The bleachers reopened in left and in center field, and we've had great crowds out there all week long. Back-to-back homers, good omen to start the homestand. Chris Bryant, and on the very next pitch, Anthony Rizzo. Cubs win 4-3 over the Mets. And then Tuesday night, JD, Chris Coughlin, finally, the baseball gods rewarding him.
Well, he got smart, didn't he? Because he's hit into a lot of tough luck lately. But if you hit it in the seats, nobody's there to make a play for you. So Coughlin comes through with a big home run. Also drew the walk-off walk in the ball game on Wednesday, and that was just a kind of taste of what was to come.
Yeah, then it kind of got into bizarro world starting on Thursday. The Cubs, a nice comeback. They were down 5-1 to the Mets. They end up winning the game on this pass ball late. 6-5 the final as they engineer the 4-game sweep. Then Friday, we end up in the bottom of the 12th, bases loaded. Matt Caesar pops into right. Looks like a routine play. Gregory Polanco slips and falls, and the Cubs win 11-10 the final. Oh, and by the way, Travis Wood came on to get a 1-2-3 save in the ninth yesterday.
Yeah, so you got a walk-off walk, you got a winning run coming home on a pass ball, you got a right fielder doing a belly flop, you got a starting pitcher relegated to the bullpen getting a save. When those things start to happen in that clubhouse, you start to think maybe this is our year.
And the Cardinals coming back to earth a little bit. They've dropped 2 in a row. The Cubs are within 3 in the National League Central. When we come back, we're going to check in with the newest Cub affiliate in the Carolina League, the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. Stay tuned. Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers who invite you to test drive our award-winning lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Brought to you by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers who invite you to test drive our award-winning lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Welcome back to the leadoff man. The Cubs have a new High A affiliate, the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, leading their division in the Carolina League. Let's get the update from Nathan Barnett.
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is at the heart of the Grand Strand, which includes 60 miles of beach, over 100 golf courses, and countless activities and attractions. One of the town's top attractions is the Cubs' new Class A advanced affiliate, the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. The Pelicans have brought affordable, family-friendly, and lively entertainment to residents and tourists in the area for the last 16 years. In year 17, the Pelicans brought the Chicago Cubs into the fold, a move that energized and invigorated an already vibrant franchise, inspiring the club to continue to improve upon its fan experience, which has been consistently ranked among the best in all of minor league baseball, year after year.
High drive down the left field line, and that one is gone.
During the offseason, the Pelicans completed a six-figure overhaul of their home clubhouse and made Wrigley-inspired renovations all over the ballpark. When you walk through the gates at TicketReturn.com field, you're entering a part of the Chicago Cubs universe. But the new ballpark amenities are not the only attraction for residents and the over 16 million annual tourists to the area. This season's Pelicans roster is packed with talent, starting the year with 10 of the top 30 Cubs prospects, according to MLB.com. The story from the first month, however, has to start and maybe even ends with 20-year-old outfield prospect Billy McKinney. The former Oakland Athletic, joining the Cubs in the Jeff Samardzija trade last July, began the year 2 for 13. Since then, he hit .362 and finished the 29-game romp through the Carolina League before a promotion to Double-A with an 11-game stretch in which the former first-round pick was absolutely on fire.
And it's a liner to right field. If it drops, it's trouble. It lands in front of Rocket, a base knock.
He hit an organizational best .447 with 9 extra base hits, including 3 homers, and drove in 17 runs. The success is not going to his head, though. For McKinney, it's all about staying even-keeled.
Just trying to keep a level head and be confident in myself, and then my teammates do the rest. They do a great job of helping me out.
For any player, much less a then 19-year-old, being traded can be tough. But McKinney said that he immediately felt at home, and he loves his new organization.
The team was great. They welcomed me with open arms, and I just had an easy transition, and it was a lot of fun.
With McKinney's departure to Double-A, the Pelicans will lean on other top-hitting prospects like third baseman Jeimer Candelario or the under-the-radar slugger Jacob Rogers, who is near the top of the league in a handful of offensive categories and its top-tier pitching talent.
The loss of McKinney is a big one, no doubt. But this deep roster should keep the Pelicans in a race for the first-half title. The club has spent nearly all of the first quarter of the season in first place in the Southern Division. For the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, I'm Nathan Barnett.
And as we check out the Cubs minor league report, Javier Baez in a very good stretch offensively. Tommy La Stella on the disabled list, rehabbing currently at Double-A Tennessee. And outfielder / catcher Mark Zagunis in a great stretch for Myrtle Beach. We'll have the Cubs hosting the Pirates coming up from Wrigley Field. Brought to you by your Chicago and Northwest Indiana Hyundai dealers, who invite you to test drive our award-winning lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Getting set for the Pirates and the Cubs here from Wrigley Field. A.J. Burnett and Jake Arrieta, the pitching matchup, as the Cubs go for their first 7-0 homestand since 2008. That was a pretty good year. The Cubs ended up winning 97 games. It was late May, early June. They swept the Dodgers for 3 and the Rockies for 4. And already sweeping the Mets this week, trying to do the same in a 3-gamer here against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Overcast today, warm, windy. The lights are on. We hope to avoid the rain. And the Cubs with an off day tomorrow and start a 6-game road trip Tuesday in San Diego. 3 there and then 3 at Arizona before returning home on Memorial Day a week from tomorrow. Let's send it down to the field. God Bless America and our national anthem performed today by Wayne and Kathleen Messmer.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please remain standing. Joining the team on the field is Major Matt Smith. Major Smith is a highly decorated field artillery officer in the United States Army and has been awarded 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart. And now fans join Wayne and Kathleen Messmer as they honor our nation with God Bless America, followed by our national anthem.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains, to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. On the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Cubs baseball today here on WGN Sports as the home team tries to sweep the Pirates out of Wrigley Field. The final game of a 7-game stay here at Wrigley. Cubs have won the first 6, and Jim Deshaies, our pitching matchup today should be a dandy. A.J. Burnett off to a great start, and Jake Arrieta coming off his best outing of the season.
Yeah, A.J. has a 1.60 ERA, second best in the National League. He has not allowed more than 2 runs in any of his starts. Arrieta has been rock solid as well, and last time out against the Mets, he was outstanding for 8 innings, allowed just 3 hits and a run, struck out 10.
Cubs a season best 6 games over 500, and it's been a fun week, hasn't it? We've seen a lot of home runs and some bizarre twists as well. The Cubs try for a 7-0 homestand next.
The situation, I'm at the bases in. I'm kind of
Baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Designated driver and enjoy the great times. Honda Dream Garage Sales Event, now at your Honda dealer. Napa, home of Napa know-how. Ford, America's best-selling brand, inviting you to go further in our fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store or at localfordstores.com. Subway, make a smart play for savory subs this season. Score more flavor at Subway restaurants. Subway, eat fresh. And by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Cubs baseball in high definition on WGN TV is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Wind blowing out at a pretty good clip as we get started today. Chad Fairchild will call balls and strikes. Jim Joyce is the crew chief. He's at first. Marcus Patillo is at second. Chris Siegel man's third. And Jake Arrieta is ready to work. We'll get the Pirates lineup for you here in a second. Cubs have won 6 straight. The Pirates have dropped 4 in a row. There's Gregory Polanco to start it. Looked like a good pitch. Arrieta didn't get it. Hopefully it's not that kind of day. 1 ball, no strikes.
Well, if the umpire's name is Fairchild, we got to give him the benefit of the doubt for a while.
Sinker misses outside at 96 miles an hour.
I guess it would be better if his name was Chad Never Gets One Wrong. Would be a weird name.
There is the first strike. 2-1.
Always good to check on the weather before you go outside to play. Let's take a look at our Gander Mountain game time weather. 77, a little muggy, chance of rain a little bit later on, breezy. Gander Mountain weather, low price every day, guaranteed.
So southeast, kind of that right to left crosswind. Right now it's blowing straight out to the left.
Gusting pretty good.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Here's the next Arrieta offering.
Ooh, yeah.
3-2.
First pitch fastball, he thought he had that breaking ball he thought was good enough. Borderline and close, but obviously not a gimme strike.
Got him that time on the slider at 91. Pretty nasty. Let's get the rest of the Pirates lineup. Neil Walker, the switch hitting second baseman, coming up. McCutchen homered on Friday. Starling Marte in a hot streak. So is Jung-Oh Gung. Pedro Alvarez, big strikeout late in the game yesterday off the bench. Josh Harrison has been red hot. Cervelli had that big day on Friday, and A.J. Burnett, the pitcher, hitting 9th. On a bounce to Bryant, and he gets Walker 2 down.
Take a look at the Cubs defensively as we get rolling here in the top half of the first. Outfield alignment of Coghlan, Fowler, Soler. Infield, Bryant, Castro, Russell, Rizzo. Cubs have been very good defensively. Haven't made an error in a week. Miguel Montero was behind the plate. And we saw the numbers on Arrieta, 4-3 with an ERA right at 3. In his career, he's 4-0 against the Pirates with a 2.70 earned run average. He's made 5 starts against the Pittsburgh club.
Inside on McCutchen. 2 hits in the series, including the homer Friday. He's walked 3 times. And he drills this ball out into right center, but caught by Dexter Fowler.
We don't have a call yet. Now we do. Patillo taking a long time to look at that one.
So Fowler with a diving grab as we get a good look at it. Inning over. Cubs coming up when we return. To you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. 4 runs yesterday, no RBI hits, so they took every advantage of the base runners they had. Fowler, Bryant, and Rizzo at the top. Castro, Montero, and Soler in the middle. Bottom 3, Coghlan, the pitcher, Arrieta, and Russell.
Pirates defensively, a scout would tell you, a lot better in the outfield than they are in the infield. Marte, McCutchen, Polanco left, center, right. Very good speed out there. Limited range in the middle with Gung and Walker. Harrison's at third. Pedro Alvarez has his issues as he makes the transition to first base. Francisco Cervelli is the backstop, and on the mound is A.J. Burnett. He's been around a good long while now and doing some of the best pitching of his career. 2-1 with a .160 ERA through 7 starts. It's a lot of ground balls. Velocity ticked down from where it was last year and significantly down from where it was in the prime of his career, but still a very effective pitcher.
AJ 6'4", 230, 38 years old. He's from Little Rock, Arkansas. First pitch swinging fouler out into left center. And who caught it? McCutchen in front of Marte.
Off the bat, it looked like it'd be McCutchen's ball, but it sliced. And that brought Marte into the picture. Two guys coming hard after the baseball. And McCutchen cuts in front. Fowler quickly retired.
Well, Chris Bryant, who reached base all 4 times yesterday. And what a week he's had on this homestand. 450. A triple, 3 homers, 7 walks, 8 RBIs in 6 games.
It seems like he and Rizzo have been in the middle of just about everything that's gone on for the Cubs on this homestand. They're both hitting 450 in these last 6 games.
And that's 1-0. Now 1 ball, 1 strike. Alan James Burnett made his big league debut in 1999 with the Florida Marlins. This is always fun. Chris Bryant would have been about 7 when that occurred. Originally in the Mets organization, 8th rounder in 1995. His 2-1 is line past a diving Gung into left for a base hit.
2 pretty good swings at Burnett here to get started. Fowler's was run down by McCutchen. Bryant lashes this line drive beyond the reach of Gung. It's going for these Cubs here at home. They're not going to want to get on that airplane today.
So Anthony Rizzo, 36 games into the season, has been on base 76 times. You go back to 1914. In Cubs history, only Stan Hack in 1941 got on base more often this early in the season. They shift against Rizzo. Harrison over on the other side of second. That ball pops out of the mitt. Bryant thought about it and then put on the brakes.
Curveball just slipped out of AJ's hand. Cervelli had to go airborne to knock it down. We always talk about base runners getting secondary leads and being ready to take advantage of the ball in the dirt. Normally they don't think in terms of be ready to take advantage of the 6-foot-high curveball.
Skies have darkened a little bit. And as we mentioned, the lights were on when we started. And a home run swing by Rizzo. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Fastball, curveball, changeup for Burnett. He'll throw a lot of sinkers.
He's always marched to the beat of his own drummer. A lot of tattoos. Two and two.
Two-seam fastball, a little running action at 93. And that's 7-4 in his career against the Cubs. He's made 14 starts against Chicago with a 3.13 ERA.
Two in on Rizzo, and he fights it off foul.
This Burnett-Arrieta matchup is a rematch from April 20th. Arrieta went 7 innings, allowed 1 run, and picked up the win in that game. Burnett was good, allowed just 1 himself in 6, got a no decision.
15th career start for Burnett against the Cubs. There goes Bryant, and Rizzo sends it in the air. It's going to be run down by McCutchen. Bryant retags second, heads back to first. 2 outs. And it'll be Starlett Castro who has worn out Burnett in his career. 15 out of 32.
Let me see if I can do the math real quick. 469.
Bingo. You're good.
Cheated.
Rain Man still at first.
Rain Man would have nailed it. BJ got a little extra giddy up on that fastball here today. Clocked at 94. He's been sitting around 90, 91 most of the season.
They've had a hot gun this week. Saw a couple of guys a few ticks above where they normally would be. 1-1. Got a lot of ink, doesn't he?
He is all tatted up. Got a little Batman emblem there on his forearm.
Left arm looks like an old Iron Maiden poster. It's a sign from his catcher Cervelli. Bryant runs and Castro fouls.
We had a heck of a pitching matchup here yesterday. Garrett Cole and John Lester, and they both did their part trying to save the bullpen a few bullets after that 12-inning game the day before. Lester in particular, he went 7. So a little more availability of both bullpens here this afternoon.
Bryant not running, and Castro with a spoiler. Still 1-2. Hey, early on today, we want to send a shout out to a diehard Cub fan, Frank Lombardo. 65th birthday wishes. Friends call him Little Frank, and watches every day in Glen Ellen. Hang in there, Frank. Burnett wants to talk it over with his catcher Cervelli. We are having some audio difficulties, so please bear with us. We are working to correct them.
So we have intermittent audio issues?
Yeah, so hopefully people heard me Well, mentioned that we're having those issues. Another 1-2 with Bryant on the move, and Castro swung. That's strike 3, and the inning is over. Scoreless after 1.
The game along with Joe Madden. Log on to WGNTV.com right now. Click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner, and there you'll connect to all the up-to-the-minute stats and information from the comfort of your home. Game Zone is sponsored by The Great Escape, pools, patio furniture, hot tubs, so much more. Everything you need to have more fun at home this summer.
So second inning. 0-0. Arrieta back to work. Marte, Gung, and Alvarez swinging strike. And Starling Marte. You go down this lineup, you've got some guys who've been hot as of late, but hasn't translated into a lot of success for the Pirates. They have dropped their last 4 in a row. They're 17-20. 0-2.
Yeah, and I think they take solace in the fact that they got off to a similar start last year, 16-21. After 37 games, played about 500 ball over the last month. But just 6-12 in their last 18. This guy's usually pretty aggressive. Arrieta changes that equation. He gives you so much to think about as a hitter.
On a bounce to Rizzo, and he'll flip to Arrieta, and they got him at first. Here comes Clint Hurdle. He's going to want his video guys to take another look.
He really crowds Marte with that pitch. And Marte essentially hits a changeup to Rizzo down there, upset the timing a little bit of that play. But the good look there is Arrieta just beat him to the bag.
Jung-Ho Gung went to 3 for 4 yesterday with a double and a steal, and he's red hot. 356 over his last 13 after batting $182 in the first 12 games of his career. He's been playing a lot lately, and his average up to 299. 1-1.
Both of these pitchers have reverse splits in that they're right-handed, but they've been better against left-handed hitters than right-handed hitters. And they've been good against everybody. The league bats .224 against Arrieta. Lefties 197, right-handed batters 245.
Hey, Cub fans, let's go. Don't miss all the excitement this season at Wrigley Field. The Cubs return home for the start of a 6-game homestand on Memorial Day. That's a week from tomorrow. Make sure you plan ahead. Go to Cubs.com to get your seats today.
And good crowds for this homestand. People have been energized with the Cubs winning. The beer's a little bit colder. The hot dogs taste a little better.
Next homestand will feature the Nationals and the Royals. Bounce to Bryant, who will spin. Safe. Took too much time, and Gung beats it out for an infield hit.
Yeah, there's a fine line, isn't there, for an infielder sometimes between panic or urgency and taking just a little bit too much time. A little glove tap there cost him. They're trying to break him of that. Castro does the same thing.
I think they got him. This might be reviewed.
Gung had himself safe. It's a little bit of a surprise.
Joe's still waiting.
I'm waiting for the first base runner that calls himself out at first base.
Not going to challenge.
Yeah, I don't know that one's reversible either way, right?
I think he was out, but I think it's going to be tough to reverse.
Tough to get it. And Joe lost this challenge early in the ball game yesterday on a close play.
So here is Pedro Alvarez. 3 hits on Friday, including a home run. But I thought the key pitch of the game yesterday was made by Jason Mott. He got Alvarez to go after a high fastball on a 3-2 with runners at second and third and 1 out in the 8th in a 3-run ball game. If Alvarez walks there, the base is loaded. The inning could have blown up on the Cubs bullpen. Quick throw to first, and Gung got back.
Yeah, and just a good job there not giving into the strike zone in that situation with Alvarez, a guy who's paid to drive in runs. He's looking to swing the bat in that situation. A little tentative, working his way back to the base.
One and two.
Alvarez probably a little crossed up by that fastball, probably thinking he would get changeup or slider in that situation.
There it comes. A backdoor curveball, and he missed. 3-2. So you've got a strikeout candidate here in Alvarez. We'll see if Gung will be on the move. Harrison on deck.
Yeah, I would say he's probably not going here. Now Arrieta is not quick to home.
He is going. And that ball is flared into left center, and Gung will head to third. They're at first and third with only 1 out.
Clint Hurdle confident that Alvarez could put that ball in play or take ball 4 in that situation, and he does work his walks. This time it's that cutter. Didn't have the great action on it. Stayed in the zone. Flips it into shallow left center. Gung, who was on the move, eases on into third.
Now the hottest hitter in their lineup, Josh Harrison's 9 for 15 over his last 3 games. Average has propelled 48 points from the 180s to its current 229.
Arrieta will change up his game plan, as a lot of pitchers will, when faced with a run-scoring opportunity. He's been pretty aggressive first pitch fastball, but he starts Harrison with a good slider.
Swing and a miss, 0-2. We've got a no-hitter alert in Miami.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. It's just in.
Shelby Miller of the Braves with a 6-0 lead. No hitting the Marlins through 6.
Boy, he's been nails, man. He's been really good.
We'll keep an eye on that one.
He's right there with Burnett with that 160 earned run average.
That ball is caught by Russell. Well timed on the leap. Beautiful.
Couple of steps, gets airborne. He made a tremendous play out in shallow center, out behind the bag in the ball game yesterday. There you go, right here. Look at the timing, the read, great leap.
So 2 outs. Cervelli takes a strike. Got the day off yesterday. Well, he did pinch hit in the 9th, but he didn't start after catching, what, 260-some pitches on Friday.
He took a pretty good beating, a lot of foul balls, foul tips off his body, a couple of swings and misses, follow throughs, clipped him.
He had 3 hits at the plate, 4 RBIs, including the game tire in the 9th. This was his day on Friday. Backswing, foul balls.
Taking a little grief from the Cubs dugout.
One and 2 on him.
Yeah, now Cervelli may deliver a run-scoring hit here, but I like the strategy. Too early in the ball game to put him on to get after Burnett. You got Jake Arrieta out there, one of the best right-handers in the league. I feel like he should be able to get Cervelli. Even if he doesn't, it's not likely to blossom into a big inning with Burnett next.
Swing and a miss to end the inning. They had first and third with 1 out, and Arrieta escapes. Baseball blog at WGNTV.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 37 years. Join the nation. Contact Jeff at jeffvook.com. Nationwide is on your side.
Somebody wants 7 in a row for a birthday, it looks like. Oh, there's an advanced scout ready for that National Series. Young genius scout.
Here's Miguel Montero. First start in 4 games due to back-to-back opposing left-handed starters, and then John Lester Day yesterday with David Ross. And a base hit, so he hasn't cooled off a bit. He leads all National League catchers in on-base percentage and slugging.
Now 5 out of 8 against A.J. Burnett in his career. He likes that low fastball. So I figure Burnett would be a good match for him. As many sinkers as A.J. throws.
Jorge Soler getting 328 here in the month of May. And outside for ball 1. It's the curveball. It's 1-1. One and two.
Burnett's going to try to get him to chase a breaking ball out of the zone, whether he does it here on 1-2 or maybe a show me fastball inside first, but ultimately that's probably where he's going to go. Break it down. Kind of a fun matchup, a guy like Burnett who's been around for so long and maybe doesn't have the stuff that he once had, but gained a lot of experience obviously over the years against these young, really talented young position players for the Cubs. Some of them who are still pretty raw.
Called strike 3. His second punch out. Yeah, and it seems like just yesterday A.J. Burnett was kind of the raw guy with all the talent, young, hard thrower in the Marlins rotation. Included guys like Ryan Dempster and Brad Penny. Later Josh Beckett.
Burnett, you know, his career arc kind of like Arrieta's too, where he really struggled with his control early on. I would say Burnett probably more so than Arrieta did. And you know, AJ's walk rate over the years has gotten better, but still, you know, just a little worse than league average for the most part. This year he's not, a little better than league average this year. His metamorphosis was more gradual than Arrieta's. Jake, it's like all of a sudden, boom, a light went on when he got over here.
Yeah, I want to say maybe when he was with the Blue Jays, he kind of realized starting to lose a little off the fastball to sink it more often. Use his secondary pitches, try to get some more early contact. Early in his career, he just tried to strike out everybody. But most hard throwers do that. That's shallow center, and the slide and the catch by McCutchen. Throw back to first. Out. Double play. Double play as McCutchen, I think, thought Gung might catch it. Then he had to race to the spot. Sliding catch. They turned 2. And that's that. So after 2, we are scoreless at Wrigley Field. 6 years ago, the Giants shut out the Houston Astros 3-0. Oh, yeah, and here at Wrigley Field, the Phillies beat the Cubs in 10 innings, 23-22. It was a 3-homer day for Dave Kingman, but Mike Schmidt, who had all kinds of success in this ballpark, ended up hitting the game-winning homer in extras. As the Phillies were able to hang on. 13 runs combined in the first inning. Dennis Lamp of the Cubs only got 1 out to start the game. Same for Randy Lurch of the Phillies. Tug McGraw and Ron Reed out of the Phillies bullpen would allow a combined 13 runs. Donnie Moore and Willie Hernandez out of the Cubs bullpen allowed a combined 15 runs. And our speed replay is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
There was a cartoon when I was a kid. Mr. Wizard, do you remember him? Tooter the Turtle and Mr. Wizard?
I don't.
And he used to get on all these predicaments, and he would go, the turtle, Tooter, would go, Mr. Wizard, because he wanted out of trouble.
Right.
And then the wizard would go, drizzle, drazzle, druzzle, drone, time for this one to come home. And he'd get him out of. So that's how those pitchers felt that day. He was out there in the mound, just, Mr. Wizard,
get
me out of here.
Yep. Called strike 3 to get A.J. Burnett.
45 runs, 50 hits. Some serious carnage.
11 home runs combined.
$14,000 and change in the ballpark to watch that one. Now there's probably any number, hundreds of thousands claim to have been there.
I'm sure in Jack's post-game rap, he said the Philly starter got an alert and the lamp never went on for the Cubs starter. 1 strike on Polanco. Cubs had 6 players with at least 3 hits in that game. 5 Phillies had at least 3 hits. It was 21-9 Phillies at one point.
So when you do a Google search, does the interweb kind of know you and will kind of tailor the results towards you? How does that work?
I have no idea.
Because just for fun, I just put in the search bar 23-22. I got a calculator, about 4 Bible verses, and then Baseball Reference, May 17th, 1979.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. We'd love to see your Cubs selfies. Hashtag WGN Cubs. And we may use it in our upcoming fan cam segment. 3 straight strikeouts now for Arrieta. There's Walker bats. And a called strike. Shout out to Hank Smith watching us down in Tennessee. Hope you're feeling better, Hank. Pretty good bet Walker was going to take there. He swung at the first pitch in the first inning and grounded to Chris Bryant. 0-2.
Arrieta forced to make pitches in the second with runners on first and third. Got the line out and then a punch out of Cervelli, and it's kind of like he's kicked into a different gear. That cutter/slider has been menacing here so far today, as it almost always is.
That line from the Mr. Wizard you mentioned was used in a Replacements lyric later. Hold My Life. Time for this one to come home. Yeah, it's in there. Nothing in the third.
Still brewed the hard way. This Bud's for you.
Not a big shocker it's scoreless early because of the two starting pitchers. However, the weather conditions would say some offense today with the wind blowing out toward left on a warm afternoon. Strike on Arrieta.
Really a good guy to have pitching on a day like today because he's got a power arm, gets a lot of swings and misses, and he also gets a lot of balls hit on the ground when it is put in play.
Popped him up. Foul territory, and it is Harrison for the out. Comes Addison Russell for the first time. Mets hit Jacob deGrom in the 8th spot yesterday and worked out pretty well. Wilmer Flores batted 9th. They hit a grand slam. And their 14-1 win over Milwaukee. A 10-run 4th inning. deGrom had 3 hits. Second pitcher in the last century to have 3 hits, batting 8th according to stats.
Mets said what, dropped 6 in a row, right? 4 here, 2 to the Brewers, or just 1 of the 5 in a row before winning yesterday. The lead in the NL East has all but disappeared, a half game over the Nationals now. Shut the Padres down the last couple of days.
This is the end of a road trip for the Pirates. And the finale of the homestand for the Cubs. Both teams are off tomorrow. 3-2.
You know, the Pirates aren't having much success on the field, but one guy who's having a lot of fun here this weekend in Chicago is in the booth down the way here, Steve Blass. Steve, who's been a member of the Pirates organization since 1960 when he signed out of high school. Great career as a pitcher. He's been in the broadcast booth forever. Doesn't travel anymore, but he made this trip. And he's been going down memory lane, reliving his days as a visiting player and a broadcaster here in Chicago.
He is a great storyteller.
Yeah, there's Steve.
There's Steve Blass working with Tim Everett today.
He said he hit a home run here once. And I didn't look at the numbers, but he said I wasn't much of a hitter. And he said I'm running down the first baseline, and Don Leppert, the first base coach, is yelling, "Turn left! Turn left!" Uh-oh.
They've got Russell picked off.
But we've noted the very aggressive leads he takes over that first base. He's got a huge lead, and it makes sense if you're going to try to steal to get a big lead. And apparently that's what he had in mind. And I mean, that always looks bad when you get picked off, but I don't think there's, if you get picked off there versus getting thrown out at second, to me it's kind of the same thing. And you have to find that line where you get a good enough lead where you could be safe a high enough percentage of the time when you're stealing.
Yeah, that is a caught stealing because he was leaning towards second.
Yeah, now you don't want to make a habit of getting picked off at first base. If it happens once or twice, not that big of a deal. If it starts to become an issue, then you probably have to tighten up that lead a little bit. But that was more, I think, just about leaning a little bit, and Burnett caught him heading the wrong way. I like the no fear associated with that big lead he takes for a young kid.
Fowler held. Kyle Schwarber with 2 homers at Double-A Tennessee today. Frank Batista improved to 4-0. Tennessee beat Jackson 5-0. Schwarber's got 9 on the season. That's the first of a doubleheader. Frank Batista 4-0 with a 1.28 after getting the win. It was a 7-inning affair. It's a strike. It's full. 3-2. Shelby Miller now through 8 no-hit innings on just 80 pitches in Miami. He is in very good shape going to the 9th as the Braves lead that one 6-0. Here's a pitch. Bounced foul. This season at Wrigley Field, the Cubs will feature Budweiser Bleacher Fridays, starting with the Beach Bash on May the 29th. All Bleacher fans 21 and older get a pair of summer sunglasses for the game while enjoying special entertainment, music, concessions, and a beach-themed post-game party here in Wrigleyville. Visit Cubs.com. Diving stop, Neil Walker, and he gets Fowler to end the inning. After 3, scoreless.
Beautiful Wrigley Field. The Cubs offer 90-minute guided tours that include a chance to step on the field. This must-see Chicago attraction houses over 100 years of history. For more information, visit Cubs.com/tours.
Each team with 2 hits. Awkward cut by McCutchen. As we get started here in the 4th.
Different wrinkle for Marietta. Controlling the fastball and a lot of cutters. That time he starts McCutchen with a curveball. Made a very good hitter look silly. Marietta has that kind of stuff.
Jake, 29 years old. It's been well documented how much better he's been as a Cub than he was with the Orioles. At 546 with Baltimore, 2.84. 41 starts as a Cub. Strikeout rate went way up. Walk rate went down.
Ooh. I just punched you out walk-off right there on this fastball that was intended for the outside corner. Just barely missed. Chad Fairchild remains perfect.
Russell with a good effort. Just can't get that one. Well, we have a chance. Let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. Leadoff man is on for the first time for the Pirates today. We have struggled getting that guy on base. Fouled off by Marte.
Struggled to just period getting on base, haven't they? 13th in on base percentage in the league.
Their on base percentage leading off an inning, 258. Two strikes now on Marte. If
you were to ask hitters to nickname that pitch, they would probably say unfair. Be able to throw the ball 93 miles an hour and get that much movement. Lane changing slider action.
The National League average, by the way, leading off an inning on base percentage is 304. He went and he's out. That's the 5th strikeout in the last 6 batters for Jake Arrieta.
Sixth overall, kind of going into he's kicking his court mode here. I got this, boys. Rest of you rest. Just strike them all out.
Now the shortstop, Gung, technically a rookie. Even though he's 28. 26th major league game. Inside.
Taking a long look down there. Maybe a little hit and run play here with McCutchen. CHN has not been running much. 2 out of 3 in stolen bases. Had some knee issues early in the year. Apparently that's behind him now.
Pretty good lead over there. Not going. Bounced foul.
A wild one going in Cincinnati this afternoon. 6-5 Giants over the Reds. They're in the 5th.
Giants got Hunter Pence back.
Yeah, he went deep today, making up for lost time. Had a nice day yesterday.
Got 3 runs in his season debut and an 11-2 Giants victory.
Giants won better than 500 so far this year. The Reds a game under.
Night game is in St. Louis tonight. Tigers and Cardinals. Detroit has won the first 2 games of that series. Should be 2, 4, 6, 3. Taylor made to get Arrieta out of the 4th. 0-0.
That Jake thing again today. Good depth on that slider. Over match Cervelli. A little high heater gets Polanco. Good carry on that fastball to Walker. Good man on base. Let's change the game plan. Get a ground ball. And he does. Double play. Inning over. Mazda. Conviction, creativity, courage. This is the Mazda way. And that's the Arrieta way. 4 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. He has been fun to watch. Cubs in a tussle here because Burnett standing tall as well through 3.
And there will be no hitter in Miami. Shelby Miller had it broken up with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. Justin Bour, who at one time was in the Cubs chain, and Cervelli again is down.
Yeah, it's kind of an exclamation point on his weekend. Direct shot. It'll take him a while to recover from that one.
Okay, let's find out what's coming up on WGN.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch. So Justin Bour breaks up the no-hitter.
Yep.
There hasn't been one yet this year, has there? Major League Baseball?
Nope.
Haven't had one.
Hey, Cub fans, show your Cubby pride with Cubs checking and an official Cubs MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/Cubs to learn more. Member FDIC. And the last no-hitter actually was against the Marlins. Jordan Zimmerman. Final day of the season last year, right? So Cervelli will continue.
He might have been asking the Wizard to bring him home after that.
Is the protective cup the greatest invention in the history of sports?
Tell you what, catchers wouldn't be behind home plate without him. 60 feet behind.
Bryant swings and misses.
I'd rank it right behind the cheese you put on the nachos. The greatest invention. Protective cup would fall right in behind there. Speaking of which, in a Korean game the other day, Korean baseball, the KBO, Korean Baseball Organization, a team tried to position their third baseman behind the catcher during an intentional walk to defend against the errant intentional walk. But it's disallowed because it's against the rules. So the catcher's the only guy that can be in foul territory.
Interesting.
Yeah. I guess that goes under the category of doing your due diligence, protecting against any possibility.
That game is over in Miami. Marlins ended up with 2 hits, but no runs, a walk. Complete game shutout for Shelby Miller on 94 pitches, 70 of which were strikes.
Shelby Miller, the former Cardinal, traded to the Braves for Jason Hayward. Obviously, everybody aware of the Cardinals losing Adam Wainwright, so there has to be some sense of, man, maybe we shouldn't have pulled the trigger on that deal.
He's 5-1 with a 1.33 earned run average. After beating Henderson Alvarez. Rizzo takes the walk. Second one issued by Burnett. Oh, so close.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing for him, right? To pitch this gem of a ball game, but you still you're in the clubhouse like, man, so close, let it get away. What could have been.
Castro takes a strike. Nothing in 2. Now, bad news for Sean Marshall. He just has not been able to stay healthy with the Cincinnati Reds. He's going to have another shoulder operation next week. 32 years old.
Yeah, you see a guy who's had that kind of history going under the knife again. And you think, well, that's probably the end of the line for him. But we've seen some guys come back. Ryan Madson's back with the Royals after a long layoff. All kinds of injury problems.
Well, Sean's left-handed. And we know a lot of stories about guys who pitch deep into their 30s, if not their early 40s, after we thought they might be done. Darren Oliver, Bruce Chen.
Yeah.
So we wish Sean the best. I think he still makes his off-season home here in Chicago. He got sent to the Reds in the Travis Wood deal.
Bounce around there last time. Now he just stays put.
Ball should drop as Marte was playing very deep in left center. Rizzo, big turn around second. He's going to have to hold and head back before the McCutchen throw. So Castro now 16 out of 34 against AJ Burnett. I'd ask you to do the math, but
I'd have to cheat again. Well, you know, he went after a bad breaking ball last time. This time he lunges at one, but it stays up just enough where he can hit it with some degree of authority out there. And yeah, he absolutely feels very comfortable in hitting off AJ Burnett. Wednesday, May 27th, the Cubs and the Nationals play. First pitch is at 7:05. The first 10,000 fans at the ballpark will receive a Cubs hat presented by Conquer Cancer Foundation. Purchase tickets, visit Cubs.com.
Chance here in a scoreless tie with 2 men on and only 1 out. And it's Miguel Montero.
Jumped on a first pitch fastball last time. Solid single to center. Breaking ball slip on Burnett a couple of times this afternoon. Hot, steamy day. Sometimes that can be an issue. Trying to keep that pitching hand dry.
Hitters count here 2-0.
Montero has a very seasoned approach at the plate. He'll get really aggressive in hitters counts, take a big swing, but if he doesn't get it, then he'll settle back in.
Rizzo at second, Castro at first. And that gets the sign he wants. Looks like they're going in. Three and one. Warm and muggy, wind blowing out today. 3-1 on Montero. Here's a pitch. It's a strike. It's full 3-2.
And that gets good run on his two-seam fastball, and this one works its way back over the plate, top of the zone.
How aggressive you want to be here? Send mode?
Left-handed hitter. No, I don't want to send him because I want Montero, if he wants to lay off a borderline pitch and work the walk, I don't want him to feel like he has to swing.
Not going. Fouled away.
He's got a good eye. He'll take his walk. So if Burnett were to throw him a little backdoor curveball, say, it's borderline. If he lays off it and it's called a strike and Rizzo's running with a left-handed hitter in the box, Cervelli'd have a pretty good shot at him at third.
Another 3-2. Ball 4. He walked in.
Third walk issued by Burnett today, and probably more important, third walk accepted by the Cubs hitters, to borrow Joe Maddon's term. Look to hit, be willing to take that walk. Cub lineup with the patient approach and the number of dangerous batters they have create a lot of conversations on the mound, whether it's catcher, pitcher, pitching coach, pitcher, catcher, trying to get together to try to find a way to navigate their way through this patient and dangerous lineup. Soler, strikeout victim first time, took a curveball at the knees for strike 3.
Big chance, 3 on, 1 out. Here we go. Pitcher's strike 1.
Not sure about that one. Really not sure about that one.
0-2.
Well, the first one was a little bit off the edge. This one's, well, I don't know. I'm hitting. I don't want to swing at either one of them.
An 0-2 battle now for Soler. Takes that one outside.
This is what we're talking about with Burnett early in his career versus now. Early in his career, he's blown 97 miles an hour, just humping it up there. Here, the pitchability factor much higher as he paints that outside corner a couple times and goes a little further off, trying to get Soler to expand. He'll stay away throughout.
Called strike 3. 2 outs.
Now, whether you agree with those first couple of calls or not, this is pretty impressive work by Burnett, just pounding away at that outside corner, giving Soler absolutely nothing in the strike zone, just tickling the edge of the outside corner. And you know Soler in his mind, he's thinking, he's going to throw me a curveball here at some point.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher for Jorge, so it's up to Coghlan now to fly it into an 8-3 double play to end the second.
Wind continues to blow pretty hard here today out to left. Coghlan's shown good power in that direction from time to time. And that's kind of his natural stroke anyway, more of a line drive stroke the other way.
Here it comes and bounced foul. Alvarez actually slipped. Didn't matter as the ball was foul territory.
It's having footing issues in this series. Polanco with the big slip the other day in the outfield. Alvarez stumbles, got lucky as it was a foul ball.
Ball one strike. Burnett to the plate. And now it's 1-2. Couple of walks and a single here in this inning. Burnett trying to work out of it.
Trying to initially crowd Coughlin with a fastball, then the breaking ball. You know, one thing he doesn't want to do is throw him the middle away fastball up a little bit that he could hit in the air towards left field. Take advantage of that strong breeze. This is a very important situation, especially up against Arrieta, the way he's going along. Another conversation.
Burnett's first 7 starts, he has not allowed more than 2 runs in any of those outings. According to Elias, in the modern era, only one other Pirate pitcher had done that to start a season. That was Bob Walk in 1988. Driven to deep left. Marte is back on it, and he's got room on the warning track to end the inning. Opportunity missed. Still 0-0.
Fifth Third Bank, the Curious Bank.
Speaking of curious, Chris Bryant is out of the game. Jonathan Herrera takes over at third.
Hopefully nothing serious going on with Chris.
Alvarez takes strike one from Arrieta. Outside, and it's 1-1. Cubs left the bases loaded in the last half inning. Bob walked back in 1988. That impressive streak to start the season, similar to A.J. Burnett's. It was May 16th when that streak came to an end at the Astrodome. 9-2 Astros the final. Jim Deshaies 8 innings, 1 run allowed.
He just ran into a buzzsaw.
You had a 1.76 ERA after that outing.
Should have retired. Should have quit while I was ahead. Did I get a knock?
You went 0 for 2. With a strikeout and 2 sack bunts.
Oh, nice.
Nicely done.
That's a big day right there. Probably went out to Papazito's and celebrated a margarita and a fajita.
Barry Bonds homered off you in the 3rd inning.
That was a shocker.
Bounced foul.
Just a report coming in on Chris Bryant from his media relations chief Peter Chase. Bryant just a little under the weather today.
Alvarez bounces over the mound, and right behind second it's Castro. Fires a strike across.
I love that report, right? Not flu-like symptoms, not battling any kind of medical, just under the weather.
Just not feeling well.
If you're not feeling well on a hot, steamy day like today, that makes it doubly bad.
I was walking in today with John Lester. We had a shot of him yesterday. Actually suffered some cramping and was able to stay in the game. We had shots of just perspiration pouring off the bill of his cap. He said, I sweat a lot as it is, but yeah, he was really working up a lather.
Yeah, and I like watching him pitch. I mean, he fights for every pitch. He's a plow horse out there. I mean, just doesn't yield. That reaction after he got the big punch out of McCutchen was great.
Yeah, it was.
I think that when that right after they checked on him with the cramping.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So he worried about his push leg, whether that thing was going to seize up on him again, and he made a great pitch.
Montero got hit and backed up into the home plate umpire Chad Fairchild. Let's see where this got him. Oh, it actually got Fairchild.
Schinberger.
Oh, man. They have shin guards on. Harrison pops, and Castro can't get it. And Harrison on his way to second. Nobody covering the bag. He's safe. You had 4 players all in the area. And Harrison with a 1-out bloop double.
Yeah, I think Starlin started to backtrack too early on that ball. Had he turned around and run to the spot, he would have been able to get himself into better shape to make that play. Not an easy chance. He's looking for a little help from the outfield. It's not going to come in time. It's a tough break for Arrieta off the bat. As a pitcher, you're thinking that's an out. That's an easy out. And I don't think there was a play to be made at second base, but Anthony's got to follow him to the bag there. And if not Anthony, Arrieta's got to come and provide cover.
Cervelli with a base hit to right. Soler up with it. Harrison to the plate. The throw cut off by Rizzo. They've got Cervelli caught in a rundown. And now Montero covering first. A tag applied by Russell. But Cervelli gives the Pirates a 1-0 lead. That's the second out of the inning.
Cervelli's had some big hits for the Pirates in this series. I guess Friday's game didn't play yesterday. Little cutter, a good pitch again, but he stays on it, pokes it the other way. These right-handed hitters, I've seen a lot of that from Arrieta. So their throw is going to be up the line. So Rizzo wisely cuts it off. And the run down ensues. I like how he kind of backpedals like a quarterback who's got all kinds of time perusing the defense. Ideally, Addison Russell makes that tag with the ball in his glove. Well, Pirates strike first here today, but one run is not going to hold up this afternoon.
We have breaking news out of Miami. The Marlins have fired manager Mike Redmond and his bench coach Rob Leary.
Wow.
They're going to announce a new manager tomorrow morning. I'm biased because I know Mike real well and I like him a lot, but I don't think I get that one. It's 1-0 Pirates in the fifth.
The game with a former Cubs player and listen to classic stories about life as a Cub with luxury food, a beverage package, a unique gift for each guest. The Legend Suite is the most exclusive way to watch a Cubs game. For more information, visit Cubs.com/suite. You see Lee Smith back there with those good folks enjoying the Legend Suite. Sure, that was a fun day for those folks.
So here's the one bizarre parallel. In 2003, Jeff Torborg was managing the Florida Marlins. They were 16-22 when he got fired. Jack McKeon took over. Oh yeah, they brought up Dontrell Willis and Miguel Cabrera, but they went 75-49 the rest of the way. Look at the Marlins record. 16-22.
Well, and these rumors have been going around since like the first week of the season.
Yep.
And that ownership group over there, Jeffrey Loria, they have not shown a whole lot of patience over the years. I mean, there's been a lot of turnover in that managerial seat. And, as you said, Mike Redmond, a solid guy and a great reputation in the game. So hopefully he gets another chance somewhere else, perhaps in a less volatile situation.
I guess you kind of know what you're getting into when you take that job, right? As Arrieta strikes out.
Right. I mean, it's the nature of the job in general, head coaching positions in all the major sports. But it's, some situations you just feel like they're more volatile than others because of the track record. Well, most guys will tell you it's a chance they're willing to take, especially when it's your first gig.
We'll see the Marlins in early June in Miami with their new skipper.
I'm a big fan of stability. I just think there's too much turnover for the sake of turnover. If you feel like you've got the wrong guy, he doesn't communicate well with the players, you don't like, some aspect of the way he goes about his job, I get it. But we're not winning as much as I thought we would win at this point, so I'm going to change managers. I don't believe in that.
Back-to-back Ks now for Burnett. Well, stay tuned for the 7th inning stretch. It'll happen in the 7th inning, which is nice. It's brought to you by Budweiser, still brewed the hard way. This Bud's for you, and Ron Coomer in the hermetically sealed radio booth. We'll be ready to go. Here's Dexter Fowler.
I just need to take the windows out.
Strike one on the inside corner.
Coombs going to be like a Kenny Rogers chicken in there by the time this thing's over with. It's going to be roasted and roasted.
1-1. Fowler 0 for 2 in this one, but came in red hot and scored 12 times his previous 9 games.
See, this is what we're worried about here. We don't want this to happen to Coombs.
Ground ball foul.
That's beautiful. Guys in the truck are so quick to respond down there.
Warm today. I wouldn't say it's overly hot. It's just
no. And I think down in the seats it's probably comfortable because they can feel that breeze. Very nice day to be at the ballpark.
A small red fan, good shape. Just to follow up on the Marlins situation, Jeffrey Loria kind of came out of nowhere with Jack McKee in that hire in 03, so I'll be very curious to see who it is this time. Weren't there Wally Backman rumors?
I believe there were. Yeah.
If you're going to make a change now to try to jumpstart a team, it might be somebody who has a bit of a fiery demeanor. Burnett takes a little stroll after ball 4.
Bring back Ozzie. Do that whole Steinbrenner Billy Martin thing. I don't know. See if Jonathan Herrera can be a hero today. In for the under the weather Chris Bryant here mid-game. He's not had many turns lately. Kind of like the long man in the bullpen. Not sure when you're going to be used. You just have to be ready.
Had a nice job in spring training. Kind of flew under the radar. And he's been kind of that super utility guy in the infield.
He's a guy Joe Madden feels very comfortable with defensively, knows how to play the game. Now, The real issue here today is the Cubs are playing with a short bench to begin with. So Herrera, Castillo, and Ross, the only 3 guys on the bench today for the Cubs. So they're down to 2 now.
One. This is the outside corner. Alfredo Simon and Lance Lynn in the Sunday night matchup in St. Louis. Tigers and Cardinals. Chopped to first as Fowler was on the run, and Herrera grounds out to Alvarez. And that'll end the inning. 1-0 Pirates. For your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu at Subway. Subway, eat fresh. Message and data rates may apply. Third time through now for the Pirates against Jake Arrieta. Polanco and Walker have gone 0 for 4 combined. Top 2 guys in that lineup. Polanco has struck out both times. And takes a strike. We're in the 6th.
Uncle Charlie drops in to say hello.
And no, Chris Bryant's not going to manage the Marlins. They were not related. It's coincidental. He's under the weather. He's not pulled because he's retired.
He feels like he's accomplished everything he can accomplish at this level. It's time to move on.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Carlos Gomez had to leave the game today.
Did he get drilled?
He got hit in the head with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball from Noah Syndergaard. Walked off the field.
That's good.
That's good news. Scary stuff. It's out here. Gene Segura got hit in the head by Strope.
Arrieta went 8 innings against the Mets. Rizzo's going to have to get this to Arrieta, and he goes glove to glove. A resourceful Anthony Rizzo to get the out.
Second bang play down there at first base today. Rizzo to Arrieta covering. This time Marte, this time Polanco, who also runs quite well. I was fearful with that glove flip that you're going to get, under it a little too much and flip it too high, but well done there by Rizzo.
10 strikeouts in his last start. 5th time he has fanned at least 10. Faced the minimum in that game through 7 innings because of a couple of double plays. And here's Walker. Ball 1. Walker, 29 years old, 6'3", 210, switch hitter. He's from Pittsburgh. This is his 7th year in the big leagues.
Better from this side of the plate, a little bit better in terms of average, significantly better in terms of power.
Baseball family. His dad Tom pitched in the big leagues. His brother-in-law is Don Kelly.
Cubs Authentics is the premier outlet for all MLB authenticated game used and autographed Cubs memorabilia. Visit Cubs.com/authentics for more information and to bid on weekly auction items, including game used baseballs, jerseys, bases, and much more. The Cubs will donate proceeds from the sale of Cubs Authentics to Cubs charities.
Neil Walker's uncle pitched in the big leagues, Chip Lang, for the Expos briefly in the mid-70s.
Didn't he host the newlywed game or the dating game too?
I'll have to look.
That might have been his uncle Jim Lang.
Okay. I remember Jim Lang, yeah.
Before there was The Bachelor and all that stuff. It was the dating game. Hutchins had a couple of good plate appearances today. Lined out first time up in the first. Fowler made a nice play on him. And base hit last time.
Hutchins strikes out, and the Pirates go down in order in the 6th. They lead the Cubs 1-0.
To get to Wrigley Field, here's some suggestions for you. Public transportation, always a good idea. If you ride your bike, there's a courtesy bike check. Park in Addison. If you drive, free parking and shuttle services are available on night and weekend games. That's at 3900 North Rockwell. For details, visit Cubs.com.
Last of the sixth. Sun's been in and out today. Behind the clouds, Anthony Rizzo skies one to center as we get started here in the home sixth. McCutchen with the catch and the out. Ken Rosenthal just tweeted this. The Marlins are still paying Ozzie. Final year of his contract, $10 million. It was a 4-year, $10 million deal total. Mike Redmond signed a 2-year extension at the end of last year through 2017, so they will have 3 big league managers on their payroll.
Maybe they should use them both. Just do the like the College of Coaches that the Cubs did in the early 60s. Oh, just a bit outside. Did you see what Burnett just did? Stay with this. It looked to me at the tail end of all this. He looked in at Chad Fairchild motion with his hand. Was that ball outside?
1-0 to Castro. The pitch low, 2-0. Yeah, wouldn't that be something if they hired a third manager and then they called Mike Redmond and Ozzie Guillen and said, okay, we're going to throw you guys in a room, you figure it out.
Yeah.
We're all paying you.
Co-manage.
Well, you know. Strike called, 3-1.
Challenge here for Castro. Don't get too anxious after the 3-0 cookie. Yeah, because you're not going to see it again on 3-1. And that now, in disbelief, thought that ball should have been called a strike. And given what he got in the Soler confrontation last time Jorge was up there, he probably figures it should have been called a strike. That's the thing. This pitch, that's a good quality pitcher's pitch here. Could have gone either way. It looks to be off the plate. For the most part, it has been called a ball today, but for some reason, that's Soler at bat in the fourth. Fairchild liked him a little bit better.
He has walked 5. He pitched a no-hitter back in 2001, and he walked 9. He was the first pitcher in modern history to give up 9 walks in a complete game, 9-inning no-no. The record for any no-no is 10 walks. It was Jim Maloney here at Wrigley Field for the Reds. Game that went 10 innings, August 19th, 1965. Foul strike to Montero.
Yeah, that's why, when you look at the history of no-hitters, and there's been a lot of them in recent years, usually they're power guys. When you look at the list of guys who have thrown perfect games, a lot of those guys are finesse-type pitchers.
Castro takes off. The pitch is a strike, throws second late, and he stayed on second base. Josh Harrison from third is pointing to the Pirates dugout. He thinks Castro came off the bag. And Clint Hurdle will wait and see if they want to challenge this.
It's a late, hard slide by Castro, so he carries a lot of momentum into the bag, pops up.
They're going to challenge. Okay, let's see.
Is there a point where you can clearly tell that he's off the base and
yes.
The tag is being applied?
Don't know about the tag, but he's off the bag.
He definitely came off the bag.
Okay, so the foot is off, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, letter of the rule, he's out, right?
Yep.
I mean, it looked like that back foot wasn't to the base yet. That's one I wish they would kind of say, we're not going to. If a guy clearly comes off the base, It goes, slides right by the base. I get it, but that's talking about, we're picking at nits there.
I don't know if it's conclusive. I think they did tag him when he was off the bag. So you got to be able to see the foot clearly off the base, the glove clearly on the body. Call is under review.
For me, I'd like to see him tweak that so that, yeah, like I said before, if the player, if he slides all the way by the base, sure, you can call him out. In a play like that, where he just, he loses contact momentarily between his front foot and his back foot.
That's very difficult to keep your entire body, or at least part of it, on the base.
Yeah, what's
through the slide.
Yeah, we don't see it that often, but theoretically, you could argue, well, guys are going to start going head first more to prevent that from happening, and then Players Association can say, well, that's a little bit of a safety issue. Guys going head first, maybe a little bit more vulnerable to significant injury.
This could be a significant call.
Yeah.
In a 1-0 game, if he's called out, it would be 2 outs, nobody on. It's a pretty easy challenge to make if you're Clint Hurdle, because we are in the 6th and he had not yet used a challenge.
That walk issued by Burnett to Castro, the Pirates got action up in their bullpen. It's a hot day. Burnett's 38 years of age. Had to pitch out of some trouble in this ball game. Burnett's body language is that of a guy who's saying, well, whatever, let's just move on here. Let's go. I don't like it.
So that'll be a caught stealing 2-6.
I
don't overturn.
Like that. Get it, and you have the the super slow motion. They're able to break it down and look at it essentially frame by frame, and I would like to see that one kind of some extra language be put into the replay rule.
And all of a sudden the inning is over. How about that? As Burnett strikes out Montero, 1-0 Pirates. cam. The parlor with the surgeon's knife on our WGN Cubs fan cam. One and 0 the count on Starling Marte, and make it 1-1.
Talking earlier about Arrieta's improvements since joining the Cubs in terms of the rising strikeout rate and the walk rate going down. That gap between his strikeout and walk rate is better than 20%. It's sixth best in the National League. He's only allowed 2 home runs. About the only flaw you can see in his game is he's not particularly good at holding base runners. Less important when you don't allow that many.
Correct. A lot of the reaction to that overturn, I agree with that. That replay took well over 3 minutes, and then they supposedly found conclusive evidence to overturn. I think we're going to get to a point where you've got to have some sort of time limit after which the call stands if you can't make a call. Herrera gets Marte. Well, I would say 2.5 minutes would be probably plenty.
Yeah,
for me.
I mean, I think if the idea is that you need conclusive evidence to overturn, then it seems like conclusive evidence should present itself much more quickly. Nice job here by Herrera holding his ground, moving through that with the backhand. Every play now takes on more importance in a 1-run game in the 7th. I mentioned a couple innings ago that I didn't think 1 run would hold up, but so far A.J. Burnett has made it hold up.
Gung takes ball 1. 95. Arrieta still throwing hard here into the late innings.
Lester 7 innings yesterday, helped that bullpen recover. Arrieta doing the same thing here today. Off day tomorrow, so by Tuesday in San Diego everybody should be pretty fresh and ready to rock and roll.
Arrieta. Fastball missed. Apparently 3-0. Our Cubs forward upcoming schedule. We're in San Diego. Late night action Tuesday night here on WGN. Cubs and Padres. Ford, America's best selling brand. Inviting you to go further in our fuel efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store at localfordstores.com.
Padres 3rd in the league in runs scored. What a turnaround it has been for them.
Line and caught by Arrieta. Self-defense, threw his glove up there, and the ball landed in it.
Scary moment. You hear the crowd react to the replay on the big screen. Finishes in pretty good position. And able to get that glove up in the nick of time.
Low on Alvarez. 1-0 Pirates. Francisco Cervelli's had a big series with the go-ahead RBI single in the 5th.
2 outs, nobody on. Alvarez will have the green light here.
He walked him.
Once he fell behind, he just didn't want to give in to a dangerous hitter. Understandable. 1-run ball game.
It's his first walk.
Alvarez is not a base stealer.
Harrison, who was a first-time All-Star last year, hit .315 in 143 games. Oh, 0-1. Cubs drafted him in 2008, the 6th round out of the University of Cincinnati. Played inside. Wind has shifted ever so slightly and is basically blowing straight out now. Look at the flags on all the poles are blowing straight out. Out to left, out to right, out to center. Jet stream.
Yeah, boy, and what a job by these pitchers. Now we're in a 1-0 ball game despite that wind.
It's incredible. Broken bat, pop fly, shallow center field. It's Fowler with the belt high grab. And it's time now for the 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Budweiser. Here's Ron Comer from the Cubs radio booth.
Take me out to the ball game. Former Cub and current radio analyst Ron Comer.
I'm going to need some help. We need some runs, too, so let's sing it loud. A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. So it's root, root, root for the. They don't win, it's a shame. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. Oh, ball game. We need a couple runs.
And outstanding today despite that wind blowing out. Burnett, Arrieta, solid stuff. Lone RBI belongs to Francisco Cervelli. Tagline: Honda Dream Garage Sales Event. Now at your Honda dealer.
Tried to catch yourself. J.D.
Stay
Burgundy.
classy.
That's number 99 for Burnett. He missed again. Won't be nearing the end. He's only gone over 100 pitches once. That was his second start. 2-0 loss versus Detroit on April 14th.
And we saw in that confrontation with Castro, did not want to challenge until 3-0. And we'll see how aggressive he is here with Soler. Even on 3-0, goes back down and away. Soler, he's been, for whatever reason, he's been the guy who is, Chad Fairchild has opened that zone up on.
Pitch was elevated, and a line shot to deep center. Oh, what a catch by McCutchen. He just robbed him of at least 2. And that ball was taking off like a rocket.
Yeah, that was a 1-iron. He's going to want to file a grievance here. Fairchild has opened the zone up against him, and now McCutchen commits a little robbery in center field on him. And that's a ball that we often see center fielders get a little bit of a late break on, a tough read when the ball's lined like that. And a little bit of an angle. Great jump. Took away extra bases.
Well, remember that play. He's going to get another chance. A lot easier. Ball was hit just as hard, though, by Coghlan. Back-to-back lineouts to center here in the 7th. Wellington Castillo is going to hit in the pitcher spot. Instead, it'll be David Ross here with 2 outs and nobody on. Zach Rosscup throwing in the Cubs pen. Also a lefty in the Pirates bullpen, Tony Watson. Music you would have chosen, I know.
I would like something with a beat we could dance to.
So we've talked about Cervelli's protective cup. We've now seen David Ross, and we're going to see Zach Rosscup in the 8th. 1-0 Pirates after 7.
HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details.
Here's left-hander Zach Roskup. His manager has told him, I'll use you in any situation. Righty lefty doesn't matter, and that happened the other day when he faced Andrew McCutchen in a bases loaded situation and got him out.
Yeah, he likes that riding fastball. He thinks it's a tough pitch for right-handed hitters to get on top of. He also has that back foot slider he can throw down and in.
Cervelli with the go-ahead RBI single in the 5th. 36th anniversary of the 23-22 game, and I guess somewhat similar conditions, and it's 1-0 today. We still have 2 innings left, though.
Swing and miss slider. You guys will chase from behind in the count. You know, the old adage is that good pitching stops good hitting. Today, good pitching has stopped Mother Nature. These guys keeping it in the ballpark today. Very impressive work.
Bounce towards center. Russell will not make a throw. Smart. The only thing that could have happened at that point was something bad, like an overthrow.
Yeah, sometimes a player's ability to get to a ball will actually create more of a problem. If he doesn't get it, it just rolls on into center field. If he tries to make a hero play here, he might launch it into the seats.
That's just something Sean Rodriguez did yesterday. Homered in the 3rd inning. It was the only Pirate run. The Cubs 4-1 victory. Like that segue?
Very good.
Launched it into the seats. On the hands and fouled back.
This is the anniversary of the first ever baseball game that was televised.
That's right.
Princeton and Columbia. It was on W2XBS in New York City.
Bill Stern at the mic. 39
at the Baker Bowl. Baker Bowl is in Philadelphia, or was in Philadelphia. The New York Times the next day said it is difficult to see how this sort of thing can catch the public fancy.
Bunted. Roskup fumbled it a little bit, and Rizzo with a nice play on a low throw. That's always tricky because once you have a mishandle, usually you're going to get about a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and he was able to handle it cleanly at the other end.
Yeah, in towards the legs of the runner, and Roskup in a hurry, which is fine initially, but once you don't get it cleanly, you got to kind of settle yourself and make sure you go over there under control.
Couple of shots here. Top of the order was Cervelli now in scoring position. Pitcher of record for the Cubs is the starter Arrieta. And this does not sound like a losing line, does it? 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 run.
No, it's a fairly typical line for Arrieta, and good enough to win about 90% of the time, I would think.
Yeah, if not more. Look out, that goes flying over the Pirate dugout. Fortunately, landed in an empty seat. 2 strikes to Polanco. It looks like a young fan with an A.J. Burnett jersey ended up with the bat.
Stop here by Montero.
Lefty to lefty, the 1-2, and Polanco is tardy on a fastball at 95 for strike 3.
A tougher left-handed hitter. Once you've established that breaking ball left on left, the hitter has to respect that. Awfully tough for him to get to 95 out away from him.
How about the Phillies? They've won 5 in a row. They just swept the Diamondbacks 6-0 the final today. Driven deep right center, and the Pirates are going to add to their lead as Neil Walker, batting right-handed for the first time today, picks up an RBI double. 2-0.
That's a huge swing of the bat by Walker. Talk frequently about the fact that he's better from the other side of the plate, certainly in terms of his power numbers, but this time he gets into a first pitch fastball from the right side. And that Pirate bullpen has a little wiggle room now. Tony Watson's been up in the Pirate pen. And Melanson will be called upon to finish this one off for the Pirates.
McCutchen 1 for 3, but has had a much bigger impact defensively. Good block by Montero. Noah Syndergaard won his Citi Field debut, 5-1 over the Brewers today. Syndergaard made his major league debut here at Wrigley Field earlier this week. Another one blocked by the catcher. Pirates catcher Francisco Cervelli's had a tough series behind the plate, getting hit by various objects, but he's been a part of both runs they've scored, and he's caught a shutout today. Swing and a miss. Turnaround so far. So the Cubs already winning more games against the Pirates this year than they did in 19 tries last year.
The Cubs were 10 games below 500 within the division last year, so 9 of those due to their poor record against the Pirates. There's that Soler strike.
Kind of interesting. Cubs won the first 2 in Pittsburgh, 4-game series, lost the next 2, won the first 2 here in late April, lost game 3, winning the first 2 this weekend and trailing late today.
Yeah, I think Joe Madden, he refers to it as the meatloaf series. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So they've got that covered already. You know, he doesn't go into a game with that mindset. He's trying to win each and every game.
No, and he doesn't always listen to Meatloaf.
No,
either. But that is a good baseball philosophy.
It's a way to put the positive spin on a loss after you've won the first 2. Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. We keep doing that, we're going to have a good year. was a premeditated swing right there by Marte.
If Zach had faked a pitch, Marte would have swung at it.
Like a Harlem Globetrotter routine or something. Don't throw it. 55-foot scud, and Marte offers at it. He swings first pitch a lot. So as a pitcher, if a guy's willing to swing at that pitch way out in front of home plate, and now you're 0-2, it tells me it's worth taking a couple shots out of the zone here.
$36,289 the paid crowd today. Look at this crowd.
Well played.
Joe says one hand if you're an infielder, but if you don't have a glove, two, very appropriate.
Four-seamer way up here. Working down in the zone. Change the eye level a little bit. Turns out when closer to home plate, he might get a swing.
Still 2-2. Cubs with a much needed off day tomorrow. Give that bullpen an extra day of rest before starting a 6-gamer on the West Coast, starting in San Diego and then moving to the desert, to Phoenix.
We talked about that 23-22 game in 79 and 77 on this date. The Cubs beat the Padres 23-6. Just in general, this is normally not a good day to pitch. May 17th. Cubs hit 7 home runs that day.
Castro can't get it. Around third is Walker. He will score. Throw goes to second, safe. Double Marte, 3-0 Pirates.
This one's starting to slip away a little bit here. Down 1, you felt really good about the Cubs' chances. Down 2, you still felt like they had a fighting chance against this Pirate bullpen, but now it's a 3-run cushion. And a couple all-stars out there in the bullpen waiting to go, Watson and Melanson. Pirates are 16-1 this year when leading after 7. That doesn't really make them special. That's fairly normal.
Busy inning here for Montero. Blocked several pitches in the dirt. 1-0 to Gung.
Just needs to reset his sights a little bit on that breaking ball. Again, that's a pitch you can finish a guy off with if you're ahead in the count.
Brian Schlitter is ready, although there's a lefty on deck, Alvarez.
Yeah, this may be just the base open, deciding not to give in to Gung here once they fell behind. Whereas obviously very dangerous, but he is left-handed. Where was that loaded? Too high, I guess. Pretty good pitch. Yeah. I think Fairchild was. I think he was in there pitching around in mode 2. I think he was anticipating ball there.
Alvarez has been on twice, single and a walk. The pitch. 0-1.
Corey Hart's been getting some starts against left-handed pitching. Alvarez only 12 at-bats against southpaws coming into play today. 1 hit in those 12 at-bats. Work by these Pirate hitters in this inning. They've been patient. After the Polanco strike out for the second out of the inning, they've gone double walk, double walk.
Swing and a miss to get out of the inning, but not before the Pirates get a couple and lead 3-0 late. .500th home run back in 1970. Mr. Cub wore number 14 here. Pretty cool. The Kansas City Royals today honoring Ernie, who played for the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro Leagues. He wore number 28, so they've got a patch. Both the Yankees and Royals honoring Ernie Banks today in Kansas City. Nice touch. Tony Watson against Addison Russell. As the Cubs bat in the 8th, trailing 3-0. By the way, Kansas City leading the Yanks 6-0. Also in the bottom of the 8th at KC. Watson has been really good.
Yeah, he's tough. Good stuff. Tough to hit. Doesn't walk many.
Driven out in the deep left. And it's going to one-hop the wall. Russell on his way to second. Safe. He just got in. Fortunate to get in. A little bit of a risk, but what a throw by Marte.
Yeah, boy, I was surprised how close that was. I thought it was going to be an easy double for Russell. I don't know if he got caught peeking a little bit going down the line. I mean, he hit it hard, so it got out there in a hurry. Came off the wall nicely for Marte. And turned around and fired a strike back into second base.
If you're safe, it's a great play. If you're out, it's not. But he got in. A good start here. And it's Fowler.
It's all about keeping the line moving at this stage of the ball game. You're not thinking about advancing runners or anything like that.
This is Scott a retreat. One out. Sean Rodriguez now playing first. And Alvarez out of the game. And it would have been Chris Bryant, but after only one at bat. Check that, 2 at bats. He went 1 for 2. He left because he was under the weather. Jonathan Herrera came in the 5th inning. And he bats with a runner at second and 1 out in the 8th. Strike 1. It's Mark Melancon out of the Pirate bullpen. JD, he does not have a catcher. He's got his sweatshirt on. It looks like he's just kind of going through the motions right now without a ball.
Doing a little visualization. We're seeing Terry Mulholland years and years ago in the Astrodome when I was still playing. I was out early one day before I knew he was taking BP, and he was down there in the pen all by himself doing that. So that's kind of strange. The more we've learned about the mental part of the game, visualization, concentration, and focus, and all that stuff. Clearly, that's what Melancon's doing right now.
The modified towel drill.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, he's taking a lot of time between his pitches down there. He may actually be, putting a hitter in the box, a certain Cub hitter, as he goes through that. Watson's got that low 3/4 delivery, really slings the ball up there and has the ability to run it in on the right-handed hitters. It's a really good changeup as well. If you're trying to speed things up so you can kind of get the head out in front of that fastball in on your hands, you become very susceptible to the changeup. A.J. Burnett came into this game with the second best ERA in the league at 1.60. He was actually tied with Shelby Miller. Miller went 9 shutout today. Burnett 7 shutout, lowering his ERA to 1.38.
Miller 133.
Creep ahead of Zach Greinke, who was leading the league coming into play today.
Jonathan might want to change his last name to Fowler. For you, LER. Keep spoiling these 1-2 pitches. Watson again. Fly ball to left. Marte moving to his right. He's got it. 2 outs. Here comes Rizzo.
Now I know Herrera's not a big, strong guy, and I know he didn't square that one up. I still think ball in the air like that today, and this, Daly today probably should have carried a little better than it did.
Wind blowing in that direction.
Cervelli's out of timeouts.
Back-to-back pitches off the plate in.
Score you might anticipate seeing in this ballpark today took place in Cincinnati this afternoon. A 9-8 Giant win over the Reds. Petit with the win out of the bullpen. Anthony DiSclafani was really good early on. Took the loss. He gave up 6 runs in 3 innings. The Giants took 3 out of 4 in that series. They did.
3-1.
Scored 30 runs, did the Giants, in the last 3 games of that 4-game set. Pence and Belt homered for San Francisco.
He walked him. Tying run will come up. Starlin Castro.
Well, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Just keep the line moving. You're down 3. You need base runners. Rizzo proven to be so disciplined. Works his 2nd walk of the ball game, and big opportunity now for Castro.
Well, if you believe somebody is going to grab a hold of one and get it up into that jet stream, this would be a good time for it. Strike 1. Struck well, but caught. It's a 3rd line out to McCutchen in a couple of innings. Absolutely squared up by a Cub hitter, but they're still down 3-0. Cubs had the tying run at the plate in the 8th. Could not get a run in, and here's Brian Schlitter, just back from Iowa. He pitched in the game yesterday.
He faced 2 batters, gave up a single and a double, was removed for Phil Koch. Brian not charged with any runs in the ball game yesterday. Kind of get the feel for that sinker. He throws hard, mid-90s with good movement. Just needs to locate a little better. Things will turn around for him. It's been a rough go so far.
Harrison to lead it off. And he looks at a strike. Baltimore shut out the Angels 3-0 the final. Mike Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, got the win. I think that was his major league debut today. They went into the 8th, did not give up a run. It's a pretty good debut, isn't it?
That's a sparkling debut.
3rd round pick of the Orioles in 2011. Seven and a third, 4 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And the Orioles avoid the sweep. They went in to that game tied for last with the Blue Jays in the American League East.
Jays lost today. They've dropped 5 in a row. Astros got them 4-2. Houston now 12 games better than 500. Colin McHugh beat Mark Burley.
So that means a 5.5 game lead for the Astros over in the AL West. Herrera's got a charge, and he gets him.
Angels losers today, but they've been playing good ball. They had won 5 in a row.
Felix Hernandez lost last night, his first defeat of the season. Tough goal for the A's. They're down again today to the White Sox in the 4th, 1-0.
Luis Valbuena hit a home run for the Astros today. He now has 10.
You say that trade worked out well for both teams?
I would indeed.
Yeah, Dexter Fowler, the everyday leadoff man for the Cubs in center field.
Astros are an intriguing club, and they have all these guys that are hitting, you know, around 200, or in some cases below 200, but they hit a lot of home runs. Valbuena's hitting 206. Springer $190. Evan Gattis 188. Rasmus hit his 7th home run today. He's hitting 236. Chris Carter $163. I guess you could say batting averages is an overrated statistic.
On the outside, and it's even 2-2. Rodriguez on deck.
Brian mixing in a few breaking balls in this outing. Maybe that will be part of the turnaround for him.
Time call. An actual baseball got out of the Pirates bullpen. Mark Melancon's literally throwing a ball now.
I wonder if he visualized that happening when he wasn't throwing a ball. He pretend he sailed one down. Totally got into the moment.
Padres lead the Nationals 2-0 after 3. San Diego at 519 and 19. We'll see them on Tuesday night. Castro gets Cervelli. Rodriguez has been very good in a limited role here early on with the Pirates. Versatile defensively. He's got a couple of home runs. Both have come against Cubs pitching. Castro's going to charge. Rizzo stayed on the bag, and the inning is over, and I don't think Clint's going to ask for a challenge here. Hang on 1 second. Nope, no challenge. Cue the music. On this homestand, hadn't had a 7-0 homestand since 2008. If they're going to replicate that, got to score at least 3 here in the bottom of the 9th against Mark Melancon.
Veteran right-hander working for the second time in this series. Pitched a couple innings on Friday of scoreless baseball for the year. 0-1 with a .363. 8 saves and 9 tries. A couple rocky outings early on, but 10 appearances or so has been really good. Gave up a run outing previous to coming to Chicago in Philadelphia, but a run of 8 or 9 scoreless prior to that.
And a strike called on Miguel Montero.
It's pretty much closer's sweet spot in a 3-run lead, so the save is still in play.
Montero, Soler, and Coghlan.
Johnson throws a lot of cut fastballs, and he'll mix in the occasional curveball.
And a swinging strike 3.
Cervelli asked for that cut fastball off. They're trying to jam Montero. With a half swing, but he went far enough.
Soler bounces one foul up along third. Melanson from the windup. Curveball that time, bounced foul. Burnett, 7 innings, no runs on 3 hits. He did walk 5.
Cubs' best chance came in the 4th. They had the bases loaded with 1 out. Jorge Soler was struck out. Some marginal calls. Coghlan flew to left to end the inning.
Watson a scoreless 8th. And now it's Melanson.
Most of the walks for Burnett today a function of just being careful in certain situations, not wanting to give in.
Ball might have been in the zone, but you know what? Jorge deserves one.
Exactly.
3-2.
And we see a lot of the Pirates. We see a lot of Melanson, and again, he's the guy who I think he profiles better against left-handed hitters because of the cutter in and the backdoor breaker.
Ground ball toward the hole at short. Backhanded by Gung. Safe at first.
It'll be the start of something. I think if you watch a lot of Mark Melanson's appearances, break it down over time, you'll see more hard contact coming from the right-handed hitters than the lefties. I'm trying to hurry that throw. Misfires and Soler aboard.
It is an error. So let's see if the Cubs can take advantage here. Coghlan with Wellington Castillo now on deck in the pitcher's spot. 3-0 Pirates, 1 out, bottom 9. Strike call. Rodriguez playing behind the runner at first. And punched into center for a base hit. Here we go. Error, single. Here comes Castillo.
So it's that cutter in, inducing weak contact, but favorable contact for the Cubs as Coghlan pushes it into shallow center. Castillo strides up there, representing the tying run. Melanson over the last couple of seasons, very dependable for the Pirates. Only allowed 2 home runs last year in 71 innings of work. But he's allowed 2 this year, and 17 in the third. We're looking for reasons to be optimistic.
Ball one. First and second. 3-run ball game. 9th inning.
To further make the point on Melancon splits this year, right-handed batters hitting 341 against him coming into play today. Lefty's 208. The cutter to a left-handed batter moves off the plate in on the hands to a right-handed batter. That cutter kind of moves out towards the barrel. If it's on the plate, it's very barrelable. Barrel-upable.
1-1. Driven to right. Polanco back on it. Reaches up and gathers it in on the warning track for the second out. On the play, Soler tags and moves to third. It's not terribly relevant. First and third, the key guys at the plate. That's Addison Russell.
A real good swing of the bat here by Castillo. If it's to the pull side, it's a home run, but opposite way, out towards that well, and Polanco able to run it down.
Maybe some 9th inning heroics from the 21-year-old Russell. They're at the corners. Here we go. Ball one.
Control the moment. That's the key. That level approach.
Didn't like the call.
No, borderline pitch. A good take there by Russell. You don't want to offer it that. Try it again. Lanson's able to command that down. There's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do other than punch it to right.
Have not gone scoreless since they lost to the Cardinals here on opening night, 3-0. The pitch.
Ooh, that was the one. That cutter was up out over the plate a little bit. Closer in this situation, any relief pitcher in a late inning situation with a couple of men on base, you're just pitching away from danger. Your instincts as a pitcher after working that cutter away are probably, I could probably jam him, get in on him. But if you make a mistake in the inner third and he hits it into the seats, you'll never forgive yourself. Just trying to stay away from a big fly here.
Russell hits a ground ball to Harrison. He'll get it to Walker in time. They force Coghlan, and the Pirates salvage a finale. They were good at salvaging in the first 3 series against the Cubs.